Recording Colonel Borman's press conference on Monday afternoon, June 2nd, 1986.
Good afternoon to all of you. Frankly, I'm a little surprised. I didn't think that it would generate this much interest. I announced to a group of friends and business associates last evening and community leaders that I would be leaving Eastern and that I would join the board of Texas Air. That's hardly new news because I've been saying it all along, but it is a little more definitive now. I will be retiring from Eastern actively 1 July or 30 June, and I will be joining the board of Texas Air as vice chairman on that same date. I don't have to tell you because I'm certain all of you know we've seen each other many times before. This is a time of mixed emotions for me because Eastern has been a part of my family and my life for 16 years. I am very, very much still in love with this airline, and then on the other hand, I think that the airline, as a member of the Texas Air family, is better prepared to meet the future of what is still a fiercely competitive market, and I'm quite confident that Texas Air and Eastern will do very well together. So that's the basis of the announcement that I have to make. I will also be leaving Miami sometime in the not-too-distant future and moving to Las Cruces, New Mexico, not to go in business with my son, but I guess to babysit on occasion. I got one of those rare calls, and those of you are not old enough to understand this yet, but when your son calls and said, "Hey, Dad, we'd like you and Mom to come out here," we jumped at the chance. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might. Yes, sir.
This is obviously a difficult time for you in saying goodbye to Miami and starting with your family in New Mexico. Some of the union leaders have said that personally they've enjoyed working with you, but professionally they felt that there's been some hostilities through the years. How would you characterize your tenure heading Eastern, and specifically the relationships with the unions?
I think it's fair enough to characterize the last 10 years when I've really been responsible for the fortunes of Eastern Airlines as the CEO as difficult ones for the entire industry. I guess I would be less than human if I didn't say I was very proud of the overall accomplishments in that 10-year period. And the most significant factor for any airline presidents, we've carried almost 400 million Americans and foreigners as passengers with only one fatal accident. Now that's one too many, but we have only had 29 fatalities after carrying almost 400 million passengers. So I'm proudest of that. Number two, the 10-year period, in spite of the economic difficulties and in spite of the really traumatic impact of deregulation, is on a relative basis the best 10 years in the last quarter century at Eastern. So it's been traumatic, but it has been at least relatively successful. And then from the standpoint of our service in the last 10 years, we have had fewer consumer complaints per 100,000 passengers than any other carrier save one, Delta, and I'm proud of that. And dealings with the unions have been difficult, but we have been through difficult times. I think all of us would ideally like to have been able to reach a more benign agreement, because clearly the economic facts of life are out. The labor costs are going to have to go down. They're going to have to go down even more at Eastern. The labor leaders were in a tough spot. And unfortunately, I don't believe that the American labor movement in general clearly understands that they're part of the competitive picture. They remind me in many ways of people that keep denying reality. So we made a lot of progress, and again, I have no chagrin or no bitterness for anybody.
Will this maybe when you're trying to do anything with NASA?
For the labor concessions,
Pardon me, ma'am?
I'm sorry, if you had not had to sell out, if this buyout was not coming about, if you, let's say you were able to get the kind of labor concessions you were trying to get, would you say?
The question was, would I have stayed had we been able to get everyone in the type of concessions that were required, cost reduction? I probably would have stayed at least for a while, but if you're honest with yourself, and I like to think I am, you all should recognize that what we've been able to accomplish here in the way of labor reductions have been done without any real financial resources. We've had to cajole, to plead, and sometimes to threaten, and you can only do that so long before you run out of gas with it. So I am quite at home and at ease with the arrangement with Texas Air. I think the employees will be far better off. I think the shareholders will be better off. They got a 50% premium. And I think Miami and the passengers will be better off. So I think it all came out for the best, and I'm not being a Pollyanna. I honestly believe that. Yes, sir.
The approval process.
I'm sorry.
The approval process for the acquisition is still going on. Why did you choose to leave before that was officially finished?
The approval process is still going on, but as you probably know, the Justice Department has now come out and recommended expeditious approval. I think that clearly pointed the way that it is indeed a done deal. And it's very difficult for an organization in this time period to have the uncertainty that we're having now. So I think it'll be far better off under the circumstances that I've described.
Mr. Borman, looking back, would you have done anything differently? Do you have any regret in retrospect?
You know, when I left NASA at the going away party, they gave me a rear view mirror because they said I never looked back, and I don't. I believe that this organization, although it's often been personalized, and frankly it was personalized as a strategy and an attempt to soften it and gain customer appeal, in a way that isn't fair to the tremendous infrastructure that exists here. The management at Eastern Airlines has done wonders, aside from Frank Borman. So I under the circumstances, have no regrets for any of the things. But in '83, I would have liked to have had the resources to take a strike, but we didn't have them, and so why worry about it?
What would you say is your biggest disappointment? What would you say is your biggest accomplishment at Eastern?
Biggest disappointment that I've had, I think, really since I've been at Eastern, was the recent FAA action. I think it was unjustified, and I won't get into it because we're out of that now. But perhaps that was the biggest disappointment that I've had overall. The inability to convince, even though the numbers were clear and the results were apparent, to convince some of the labor leaders that the world had changed was also, perhaps that was the biggest one.
Mr. Borman, Mr. Bryan this morning said that he felt it was a tragedy that you were not able to use the great prestige you brought when you came to this company to better advantage, and he said, quote, you had a strategic obsession with cutting labor costs, and that's what led to a, quote, crisis atmosphere for much of the past 10 years. Can you respond to this type of criticism?
No, there's no sense responding to that.
Colonel,
Yes.
What are your future business plans? Do you have any
Well, what I'm going to do, I hope now for a while, is enjoy my grandchildren for a while. And then I plan to, I've been approached by several publishing companies about writing a book about my experiences here, and I intend to do that.
Why was this the right time for you to leave, sir?
I'm sorry.
Why was this the right time for you to leave?
Well, it's the right time for us to leave, for me to leave, because the leadership is changing in this company, and it's time to go. After all, I think it's important for a person to know when it's time to come, when it's time to go. And I like to believe, and I honestly believe, that my time here has been spent with number one concern for Eastern. It's important for the company for me to leave at this time.
Are you worried about leaving the power void? There's no one to steer the ship, so to speak?
Believe me, as I just got through saying, the management infrastructure here is strong. Joe Leonard's a strong leader, and there will be no void.
What will you do as Vice Chairman of Texas Air?
What will I do as Vice Chairman of Texas Air? Well, I hope I can contribute. I don't intend to babysit the rest of my life. I hope I can contribute. This industry is still dynamic. It is unsettled. I don't have to tell you that, David. You follow it closely, but I hope that I can contribute in both policy and performance to Texas Air. And we've had one of the nice things about this whole involvement. I really didn't know Frank Lorenzo that well before this all came on. I'd met him, but I've grown to admire him, and I think that we'll work well together.
Is this a titular role, Colonel?
I'm sorry?
Is this Vice Chairmanship a titular role, or do you have something to do in terms of day-to-day operations?
Well, as I said, Joe, for a while I'm going
Are you going to be on
to...
the phone every day from Las Cruces?
I imagine.
Colonel, after you leave, who will be the top executive? Will Joe Leonard?
Joe Leonard will be.
Then nobody will be brought in from outside?
Well, look, I honestly didn't plan to make this announcement today. Some of the things I can't respond to directly because I believe that the way I just described you is the way it will go.
Borman, some of the legal problems, particularly the recent past, have been difficult. Would you consider this decision previously, sir, and if so, what made it different this time?
Well, no, I've never. You look, the labor problems across this industry. Look at the strike at TWA, the strike United. The labor problems are not unique to Eastern Airlines. We took a unique way in trying to solve them and found that labor wasn't mature enough, in my estimation, to handle reality. But there wasn't ever any intention on my part to say, oh, gee, I can't take this anymore. I've enjoyed all 16 years here. I like it. I like the business. I love the people. I'm at peace. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Borman, you have a 5-year management contract with a couple of years left on it, which gives you the option of exercise or continuing to accept part of your salary. When did you decide to do that?
I haven't even discussed it. I don't have a severance agreement with the company. I've never even had an employment contract until labor came on the board of directors, and we'll just have to see how that all works out. Yes, sir.
Carl, we've seen you as perhaps one of the most influential and successful businessmen in the South Florida business community. Probably you didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of personal things to enjoy yourself because of your commitment to Eastern Airlines. With the time that you have available now, how will Frank Borman, regular person, if you would ever be that, what are you going to be able to do now that you couldn't do before?
Well, one of the things that I really want to do is I would like, I am interested and excited about the possibility of trying to put this down on paper. So that will take care of it for a while. I have one of the things I've missed more about in my life, I guess, since I've been here these 16 years, is not being able to fly myself. So I hope I can find an opportunity to fly more. And then as I said, I will intend to get back involved in the free time I have from Texas Air in some other business ventures that I haven't even defined yet.
Colonel, just to follow up on that, do you have a book contract yet? Or?
No. I've just been. I don't have any idea. And I'm a lousy writer, so we'll see.
Which book you want to write? Would that be about Eastern and your days as an astronaut, or would you focus on?
I think it'd be more focused on Eastern than anything. I think everything's been written about the. Tom Wolfe did it all on the astronaut, didn't he? I know enough not to try to compete with that.
How about political aspirations?
No, I don't have any political aspirations. I have an enormous regard and love for this country. So if sometime I might get involved again in the future in an appointed way, but I really don't think I'd make a very good politician.
What about teaching? You've got a fairly good-sized university.
I might do that. I might do that in time too. Yeah. You all are asking me questions I'm not prepared to answer. I taught for 3 years at West Point and I enjoyed it.
You're going to miss Miami?
I'm really going to miss Miami. Miami is a wonderful community. It's cosmopolitan. It's tough. It's raucous. It's dangerous. I love Miami. I love Miami. And you know it's full of people that care. It's a good cadre. I like Miami.
You're going to miss all the reporters?
No. That's a leading question.
Colonel, how important do you see your years at NASA to preparing you for what you've accomplished at Eastern, and do you have any desire to go back and work with NASA at any point?
Well, I had a very wonderful experience at NASA. I was not only able to fly, but I had some very good management experience after the fire we had in January '67. But I probably will not get involved in NASA again. I've been working at times with the committee that's investigating this when they've asked for my opinion, and of course I do anything I can to help. But let's face it, when you come to Eastern, when I came to Eastern, this was a consuming job, and you can't keep one foot on the beach and one in the boat. You either got to get ashore or get in the boat. And I got in the Eastern boat, and I haven't looked back there either. So it really did not allow me a lot of time to keep up with NASA.
Have time for just two more questions.
Had you been approached after the Bags incident?
I'm sorry, sir.
Had you been approached to take over the top post at NASA this year after the Bags incident? And if so,
Not directly. I think it's probably best not to comment on that. I discussed it with some people. But look, I had a commitment here. I have been, and I don't think it's probably incorrect to say, and I will try not to characterize it, and I'm certainly, but I've had a lot of opportunities for appointive jobs in Washington over the past 4 administrations that I've turned down because I really felt I had a commitment here.
Colonel Borman, one of the most historic events in your time here was having employees take 25% of the ownership of the company. If you would reflect on how that's worked, on whether you think that's a good model for the future.
That's a very interesting question, and frankly, the ownership impact here has not had as great an awareness as I had hoped it had. The concept was good. I still believe that the future will require cooperation and understanding. Perhaps we were a little premature.
Hindsight, is there anything you would do differently?
No, I answered that question a minute ago.
In that regard, for one more.
Would the union members be members on the reconstituted Texas Air Board?
I'm sorry.
Will union members be also directors on?
Again, I just can't answer that. I didn't even realize I was going to have a press conference today. Thank you all very much.